By the early 16th century, the region of Syria became part of one of the longest-lasting empires in history, the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans ruled over Syria for more than 4 centuries, and their reign deeply influenced the region's political, social, and cultural landscape. This period saw both stability and significant challenges, as Syria underwent modernization while facing the pressures of European colonialism and internal strife. The legacy of the Ottoman Empire continues to shape Syria's identity to this day. In 1516, the Ottoman Empire, led by Sultan Selim I, defeated the Mamluk Sultanate at the Battle of Marj Davik near Aleppo. This victory marked the beginning of Ottoman rule in Syria, which would last until the early 20th century. The Ottomans integrated Syria into their vast empire, which stretched across much of southeastern Europe, Western Asia, and northern Africa. Under Ottoman rule, Syria became part of the larger province of Damascus, which also included parts of modern-day Jordan and Lebanon. The Ottomans governed Syria through a decentralized system, with local rulers or beys overseeing various regions. The Ottomans maintained control over Syria by relying on these local elites, as well as military garrisons, to manage the diverse populations within the region. The Ottomans brought stability to Syria after centuries of turmoil, and the region became an important part of the Ottoman economy, particularly through trade and agriculture. Key cities such as Damascus, Aleppo, and Homs flourished under Ottoman rule. The Ottomans also developed Syria's infrastructure, building roads, bridges, and caravanserais, roadside inns, which facilitated trade and communication across the empire. During the Ottoman period, Syria experienced a period of cultural and intellectual growth. The Ottomans were known for their architectural achievements, and many of Syria's most iconic landmarks were built during this era, including mosques, schools, and public buildings. The Umayyad Mosque in Damascus, for example, underwent significant renovations during the Ottoman era, solidifying its position as one of the most important religious sites in the Islamic world. Syria was also home to a rich and diverse population, which included Muslims, both Sunni and Shia, Christians, including Greek Orthodox, Maronite, and other sects, and Jews. The Ottoman Empire was generally tolerant of religious diversity and allowed different communities to practice their faiths freely. This religious pluralism contributed to Syria's vibrant cultural heritage, as religious minorities played significant roles in the economy, education, and governance of the region. Europe, particularly Britain, France, and Russia, began to exert increasing control over the Ottoman Empire's trade routes and markets. The empire also faced rising nationalist movements, both within its Arab provinces and across its Balkan territories. In Syria, this sentiment was further fueled by dissatisfaction with Ottoman governance and the desire for more local autonomy. One of the most significant events of this period was the French intervention in Syria during the 19th century. France, which had historically maintained a strong relationship with Christian communities in Syria, sought to protect its interests in the region. This led to increased French influence over Syria, especially in its Christian communities, and set the stage for greater European involvement in Syrian affairs in the years to come. World War I, 1914 to 1918, marked the end of the Ottoman Empire and the beginning of a new era in Syria's history. The Ottoman Empire sided with the Central Powers in the war, but its defeat by the Allied powers led to the disintegration of the empire and the eventual occupation of its Arab provinces by European powers. Before the war, the Arab nationalist movement had been gaining momentum. The Arabs, under the leadership of figures such as Sharif Hussein of Mecca, sought independence from Ottoman rule and the establishment of a unified Arab state. The Arab Revolt, which began in 1916, was supported by the British, who promised independence to the Arabs in exchange for their help in defeating the Ottomans. This was formalized in the McMahon-Hussein Correspondence, a series of letters between the British High Commissioner in Egypt and Sharif Hussein. However, after the war, the Arab hopes for independence were dashed by the Sykes-Picot Agreement, 1916, a secret agreement between Britain and France to divide the Ottoman territories in the Middle East into spheres of influence. The agreement carved up Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Palestine into zones controlled by the British and the French, with Syria falling under French control. The French mandate in Syria was characterized by efforts to control and administer the region while also managing the diverse ethnic and religious groups within the population. The French authorities attempted to divide Syria along sectarian lines, creating separate regions for Alawites, Druze, and Kurds, in an effort to weaken nationalist sentiment and maintain control over the population. Despite these efforts, Syrian nationalism continued to grow. Nationalist leaders such as Hashim al-Attassi, Sultan al-Atrash, and Shukri al-Quwatli led revolts and resistance movements against French rule. The most significant of these uprisings was the Great Syrian Revolt, 1925 to 1927, in which the Syrian population, including Muslims, Christians, and Druze, rose up against the French mandate. Although the revolt was suppressed by the French, it demonstrated the strength of Syrian nationalism and the desire for independence. In 1936, the French agreed to a treaty with Syrian nationalists, granting Syria limited independence. However, this treaty was never fully implemented, as political instability and external pressures, including the rise of Nazi Germany in World War II, delayed Syria's complete independence. Syria finally gained full independence from France on April 17, 1946, after years of struggle and negotiation. The withdrawal of French forces marked the end of colonial rule in Syria, but the country was left with significant challenges. The new state faced political fragmentation, economic difficulties, and ongoing social tensions. The end of Ottoman rule and the French mandate opened a new chapter in Syria's history. The country now had the opportunity to establish its own government and direction, but the political instability and external pressures of the post-war era would continue to shape Syria's future.